So in the first moment, we're going to see the theoretical part of teaching methodology. And in the second part, we're going to have the demo lesson. But before we start, do you guys have any questions about last session or sessions before, the documents you've started working with?
I do have a question actually. Let's try to remember it, and I just did. Um, I don't know if you guys can hear the truck that's outside. I'm sorry if you can.
No.
But I wanted to ask about the field trip proposal.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only document that I need to do as of now, at the very least. And I was wondering about the website. I know that we need to put a website, right, of the place, but if I want to do what we were talking about a couple sessions ago, of like doing a mindful activity, mindful exercises in Ibirapuera and stuff, what website would I provide? Would I provide the park's website or?
Yeah, you can put the parks website. Then if you're bringing a professional and they have a professional social media, then you could put that as well. But only if it's a professional, not if it's a
Yeah,
personal.
I wanted to bring a professional, but I really don't know where to look. If I'm being quite honest, I haven't started looking yet. Uh,
Mhm.
I did a lot yesterday, and so I wanted to do this today. But where should I look? Should I look in social media? Should I look in like Google? I don't really know where to find like guest speakers. I guess that's my question.
Well, to find someone, I would try to get indication from other people, to get someone that someone knows. Maybe you don't know a person, but you may know someone who knows a person. What I mean is, in terms of the website to put, you can put the park's website.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go. So this is what we're going to talk about is what you saw in module 2. And we're going to start to put that knowledge into practice, talking about the GIA methodology, CLIO and PBL, the GIA lesson plan, and Bloom's taxonomy. So by the end of this lesson or session, by the end of today's session, you will know how to identify and prepare the content aim and the linguistic aim of a lesson, know how to connect a lesson with the GIA key values, and understand how to move from lots to HOTS in a lesson. And just a disclaimer and give it proper credit, the following material was prepared based on Karin Ragnev's document, CLIO and the 4 Cs in the J high school class, and on the lesson plan grid instructional guide. So about CLIO and the J methodology. Is everybody familiarized with the concept of CLIO? Or have you ever worked with CLIO even outside of the high school context? Not sure. So CLIO means content language integrated learning, which means that the subject or the content and the language are taught together. And at GIA, we teach the curriculum, and at the same time, we help learners gain language, the language they need to manipulate the content. Sometimes specialists separate CLIO into 2, hard CLIO and soft CLIO. Hard CLIO would be focus on content, but you teach language together. And SoftClear would be focus on language, but you teach some content together. Which one of these two approaches do you believe is the high school, Greeks high school's approach? Focus on content or focus on language?
Content?
Focus on content. So our main goal is to teach the content. However, why do we need to teach language together with content?
Because language is the means of understanding and communicating what you have learned, what you are learning.
Yeah, Andre.
Sorry. I think it goes a little bit beyond as well. I think we're trying with the CLIL methodology, we're trying to at the same time put emphasis both in the content and the language. So we're trying to develop the students language skills in the speaking, listening, writing, and reading skills. So we're trying to put emphasis on both the content and the language so that they can develop their skills.
But why do we need to teach them language? It's more simple than you guys think. Why do we need to teach them English?
It's an important language to learn. It's used worldwide and it allows you to connect with different cultures.
All right. So I was going for it's not their first language. Because if you think it's a high school, think about Brazilian high school, Brazilian ensino médio. We teach content only. We don't teach language because Portuguese is their first language. So the high school program is not a language course. It's a high school. But we need to teach language together because English is not their first language. So they will not be able to get all the content and produce in that content if we don't teach language together. Okay. So yes, we need to give both emphasis, but remember that the content is a priority here. Okay, while teaching the curriculum, teachers should. Who would like to read this slide? Actually, I'm gonna ask Natalia Merlin, can you please?
Sure. Introduce students to new concepts. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Improve their production of language. Improve students' performance in the subject and the language. Increase confidence in the target language. Develop thinking skills. Make the curricular subject the focus of the lesson. Encourage values of community and citizenship.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So when we're teaching health, we're not just teaching health. It's not, what is your job? To teach health, to make sure my students understand the content. That's just the beginning. We have all of these other goals that we should be pursuing. So bringing new concepts, improving the students' language production, improving their performance in the subject and language, increasing their confidence in the language. So improve performance, so make them speak better, write better, but also increase their confidence. Have them speak with confidence, even when they're making mistakes. They're two different things. Develop the thinking skills, and the curricular subject should be the focus of the lesson, and encourage values of community and citizenship through the GIA key values. So our job as teacher is very complex, right? GIA teachers should. Natalia Foratini, could you read this for us, please?
First, identify the content aims of a lesson. Second, analyze the language demands of the subject content. Finally, plan and prepare tasks with relevant language support. Students will not improve their language skills simply by listening to the teacher or other classmates speaking about an academic topic in a foreign language.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a bad case of, how do you call that? Torcicolo. So I was just like, ow, it's because of that. So what are the steps for us to prepare a good GIA lesson? First step, identify the content aims of a lesson. So of course, the first thing when you're going to prepare a lesson, the first thing you're going to think, what do I need to teach? What is the goal with this content? What do I want my students to learn? So I need to teach this specific content, these specific topics. When we finish the lesson, they need to know about this. They need to be able to perform about this content, this topic in health. Then we go to the second step. Okay, however, I'm gonna teach them all of this in English. English is not their first language. They don't know lots of vocabulary that they're gonna need in order to understand, learn, and perform. And also, they need to improve their language in terms of production. If they want to debate something, if they want to write about something, they need to have the proper language to do that. So what are the language demands of this content? What is the vocabulary that I need to teach? What are the sentence structures that the students need to practice in order to be able to produce in this content? Finally, I'm going to get, okay, I have this content and I have this language demands. What are the tasks? What are the activities that I can prepare so that I will achieve this goal, both for the content and for the language? So what do I need to do in the class, and what do I need to ask my students to do so that by the end of the lesson, they learned the content and they learned the language that they needed for this content so that now they can produce. And this is important. Students will not improve their language skills simply by listening to the teacher or other classmates speaking about an academic topic in a foreign language. This is talking against lecture-based lessons. So it's not enough. It's not sufficient if you just talk, and you don't have your students doing things. And also, they don't learn only from listening. They need to have structure, tasks, exercises, practice in order to improve their language. Any questions here? No? Okay. So in order to do that, we use the 4 C's. The 4 C's: content, cognition, communication, and culture. You will see how our lesson plan is organized around the 4 C's. So the first C, content, is the subject. What are we teaching, right? We're teaching health. Okay, within health, what are we teaching? We're teaching macronutrients. That is the content. Cognition, thinking skills, lots and hots, or the Bloom's taxonomy. So what are the thinking skills that the students are gonna use or need throughout this lesson in order to produce this content? Are they going to list words? Are they going to list ideas? Are they going to compare concepts? Are they compare pictures, compare ideas, compare different types of food? Are they going to develop a project? Are they going to develop a text, develop a poster? Are they going to discuss a subject, discuss a text, discuss a video, discuss an idea, discuss a quote? What are the thinking skills? So this, we can think about the command terms from, it's not here. Okay, the command terms from Bloom's taxonomy. So what are they actually gonna do in order to get that content? The next C is communication, which means language. Language to express thoughts, technical vocabulary, expressions, synthetical language functions. So what is the language that they're gonna need? Key vocabulary and structural language, chunks of language. If they're going to work with more complex writing, do they need linking language, conjunctions? If I'm teaching, if I was teaching British literature, for example, and we're seeing Shakespeare, do I need to teach them the old forms of pronouns? You know, thy, thou, thine, don't remember all of them. So what kind of language do they need to know in order to produce? And the last one, culture, which is the intercultural aspects and the GIA key values. Intercultural aspects, connecting what we're learning that is mostly directed towards American culture with the student's own culture, typically the Brazilian culture. So how can I make this connection? And of course, the GIA key values. So intercultural aspects and the GIA key values, they need to be present in every lesson. Okay, they need to be mentioned, worked with, present in every lesson. I don't know if you can hear the airplane. Okay, teachers should provide support to the students through self-evaluation, peer feedback, group feedback. And the lessons should focus on students' interests as much as possible and foster critical thinking. Always trying to increase student talking time and reduce teacher talking time. I think our goal as a teacher is always to try to reduce our teacher talking time, so we don't have lecture-based lessons all the time. Sorry. So we're going to take a look at the lesson plan grid divided part by part, and I'm gonna explain every box that you need to fill out. Have you seen this, the lesson plan grid during module 2? Sorry, do you remember seeing it? Is it familiar to everyone? And then, where do you find the lesson plan? It's in the planning toolkit folder, lesson plan. You have the Bloom's taxonomy, you have the handout about Clio, which is mostly what I just talked about. Then you have 2 lesson plan samples. The second one, the demo lesson, is the one that I'm gonna show you. Then you have the instructional guide with instructions of how to complete it. And you have a blank sample, a blank form. And the blank form is the one that you can come and make a copy for you. Wait. Okay, so Greek's lesson plan sounds complex, but I promise you it sounds more complex than it actually is. And we're going to see part by part. Then after the demo lesson next week, you're going to see the lesson plan of the demo lesson to see how does a lesson that was taught here live, how does it translate into a lesson plan? And then you will see how, and then you will start to prepare your own lesson. And you will see how it's actually simpler than it looks and simpler than it sounds, okay? But for now, I'm going to explain part by part. I really recommend you take some notes, or you make sure to watch this recording afterwards, because some parts teachers are always in doubt of how to do it. So let's see. The first part is the header, very straightforward. So I'm just gonna cross the subject, your name, the date of the class, grade of the students. If you have a mixed class, you can check more than one box. Class number according to the course plan. So is it the first class, second class, third class? Which number of class is this? Then we come to the aim. So the aim is the general aim of the unit, which is the aim of the class, the goal of the class. I like to think about the aim as one sentence, a long sentence that is comprehensive, but not a lot of things. And don't write a whole paragraph. It's one sentence that is comprehensive with the general goal of the class. So let's suppose that I want to teach about macronutrients. Like I said, I could write the goal of the class to introduce macronutrients to the students and have them understand, or let's say, to have students understand the different macronutrients, their role in the body, and food sources where they come from, for example. So know the different macronutrients, understand their role in the body, and be able to identify different food sources. It's one sentence, long, comprehensive, but also objective. My goal is to teach about macronutrients. So the students need to know what it is, which ones they are. They're protein, carbohydrates, and fat, if you didn't know. How they work in the body and where they come from, what food sources we can get them from. So this is the aim of the unit, okay? The aim of the class. Then we go to content. The second part is the teaching objectives, what I plan to teach. So content, what is the content? The content is the actual topics that you're going to teach. So keeping the example of macronutrients, what are the topics? I'm gonna teach what are macronutrients, carbohydrate, then I'm listing the topics, carbohydrates, protein, fat, water and fiber, carbohydrates, food sources, the importance of, macronutrients, food sources, so carbohydrates, food sources, protein, food sources, fat, food sources. How carbohydrate acts in the body, how fat acts in the body, how protein acts in the body, the importance of water and fiber. So I would list all of that. Those are the topics that I'm gonna teach. Okay? Any questions here? All right. Then we have cognition. Cognition differentiation is the cognitive thinking, the cognitive skills, the thinking skills from Bloom's taxonomy. So, like I said to you, what are the thinking skills that the students are going to use? So I printed one of this sheet for me, of this table for me. And when I'm preparing class, I put it in front of me, in front of the computer, and I take a look at these words, because then I can have ideas. Okay, what do I want my students to do? So let's say maybe I want them to list, and I want them to list food sources, and I want them to classify, where is it? Classify those foods in a table, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And I want to see if they know, if they already know, if they already have some knowledge of the different macronutrients. So maybe that could be my warm-up, my introduction to the class. Then I could have my students interpret a text about the different macronutrients and demonstrate to each other. Let's say one group reads about fat, the other reads about carbohydrate, the other reads about protein, and then I want them to demonstrate what they learned. So, you take a look at these words and you start to think about the tasks, the activities that you can do to bring the content to the students. Does it make sense? You guys are very quiet today. Yes? Is it confusing, overwhelming? It's okay.
The only thing that confuses me a little bit is not even like this specific graph. It's the other one that was provided to us in the Moodle training. Because I feel like I always get confused as to why application is higher level thinking skills rather than lower level thinking skills. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this would be getting in depth on the Bloom's taxonomy, but because application, you are applying something into something else. It's something more elaborate. Because
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
low level would be much simpler tasks. Although there are some things that are, how do you say that? Maybe contradictory, because you have like discuss or interpret here. they could be considered higher level. And some words, they appear in more than one column. But the thing is, we're dealing with education here and knowledge and thinking skills, and this is not, you know, math or exact science, black and white. So we do have gray areas. This is something that helps us, you know, establish things more clearly so we can direct class starting from the simpler tasks going to the more complex ones. But there are some gray areas in it. This is created by people. It's not something that is given. So this is why. But yes, so in the cognition, you're going to write literally you're gonna write the thinking skills. So list carbs, protein, and fat food sources. Classify the food sources listed into a 3 columns table. Then read a text about prepare a short presentation about compare the information they learned between carbohydrates and protein. Compare the differences between carbohydrates and protein. Compare the differences between the different types of fat that they learned about. So you're going to list the thinking skills that they are going to use. You know that for health, we have two different trainings, one for GIA Brazil and one for the Adventists. So in the other group, when they were actually filling out, they were starting to prepare the lesson plan, a person said to me, I realized that we're actually repeating the same information in different parts of the lesson plan, just with different emphasis. And that's exactly what it is, because the whole lesson plan is about one lesson, and it's about the same lesson. So what I put in the aim, I'm going to repeat here because I'm teaching the same thing, just with a different emphasis. In the aim is, in general, in this class, I'm going to teach this in the content. So in order for my students to reach that goal, I need to talk about this, and that topic. And then in order for them to understand those topics and learn, I'm going to use this, and that task. And in those tasks, they're going to use these cognitive skills. So you're always thinking about the same thing. It's the same class. Just, okay, in terms of cognition for the same class, what are the command terms from Bloom's taxonomy that we're going to use? And you can also use these questions to help you. That they're like, can you list food sources for protein? Can you recall, how would you classify the type of, how would you show your understanding of this text, of this concept? What conclusions can you draw? These questions are very helpful of how to guide us to talk to our students. Okay, then we have previous knowledge. Previous knowledge is, what do the students already know that is going to help them produce in this class? Previous knowledge can, in my opinion, can come from 3 different places. First place, the student's life. in general. So what they saw on TV, YouTube, social media throughout their lives, or books that they read on their own, things that they're interested about, things that they learned from their families, things that they learned in life that we don't necessarily know where it comes from. They just know about that. So this is one place. Second place, or even from the Brazilian high school classes. Oh, I saw that in my biology class. They bring this knowledge with them. Second place, they can have previous knowledge from a previous lesson in health. So let's suppose you're talking about exercise and how our body needs energy in order to produce movement and exercise. And then they know that this energy comes from carbohydrates, mainly. As a second source, could come from fat. And then when they practice exercise, they burn this energy, so they could burn fat. So you're connecting. They had a lesson about macronutrients, and now they're talking about how to use that to do exercise. So the previous knowledge is coming from a previous lesson in the course. And previous knowledge can come from another lesson from the high school, from another subject, from another semester, from another year. This is very valid, very true for American history, and then American government and American literature. When they have American government and American literature, they use a lot of previous knowledge that they had in American history. Also, when they are studying American literature, they use previous knowledge from British literature. Okay? So here in previous knowledge, you're gonna think, what is the knowledge that I expect my students to have that is going to be useful for this lesson? And I love to work with previous knowledge because I like to work with my students' input. So every beginning of class, there's a moment where I try to identify, what do they already know about this subject? Where can I start my class from? So maybe I'm expecting, they probably know a lot. Macronutrients, carbs, fat, protein. Everybody knows a little about this. So I try to grasp their previous knowledge, could be classifying the foods into the different lists. And then maybe I will see that they have no idea about that. And that they think that protein is the primary source of energy when it's actually carbs. And they think that carbs transform into fat automatically, regardless of what's happening. So I have to go back a little bit and start explaining again. Or they think that potatoes are a source of protein and meat is a source of only fat. So I need to go back and start from more basic things. Or maybe it happened to me. I had students that they were seniors. One of them was training and he was following a diet. So he already knew a lot about it because he was concerned about his own body, his own health. So I could go into more depth with this student in that case. So previous knowledge helps a lot. Here you're going to write, what is the type of previous knowledge that you expect them to have? And how are you going to assess that? Okay. What is the activity that you're going to do to understand their previous knowledge? Then learning outcomes is the result of the class. what learners will be able to do by the end of this lesson. So be careful not to mistake this for what they're gonna do in the lesson. So let's say, by the end of this lesson, macronutrients, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to differentiate between carbs, protein, and fat. And students will be able to identify and recommend to other people good or healthy food sources for carbs, protein, and fat. They will be able to identify and recommend to other people because they already learned about these food sources. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to explain or write about the role of the different macronutrients in the body. They learned about it and now they're able to explain. They're able to write about this. So what are they able to do when the class finishes? They go out the door. What are they able to do now that they were not able to do when they started the class? Okay, that's the learning outcomes. Then communication. In the language content, we have 3 parts. The first part, key vocabulary, is language of learning. The key vocabulary is the easiest one. So it's basically, it's the key vocabulary of the class. So macronutrients, what is the key vocabulary? Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, trans fats, saturated fats, unsaturated fats. I don't know. It's the vocabulary that you're going to teach. Here, make sure to have different types of words like nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, phrasal verbs, expressions. So you don't have only nouns because usually we focus only on nouns, but you need to bring all these different types of vocabulary. And also the key vocabulary, focus on the most challenging words. You don't need to put all of the words that are gonna use like 50 words. So focus on the most challenging ones that the students probably don't know and need to learn. So I gave you the example that the students are going to list food sources and classify into 3 tables. So part of the key vocabulary will be potato, tomato, meat, eggs, but I'm not going to include this here because these words are obvious for them. They already know about that. So I don't need to include it here. I'm going to include like I said, carbohydrates, trans fats, saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, maybe amino acids when I'm talking about protein. So these more challenging words, okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Then we have structure, language for learning. Structure, think chunks of language. What are the structures of language that the students need in order to produce during class? So they're going to express their opinion. So they need language to express opinion. I believe that, I think that, I don't think so, in my opinion, I agree, I disagree. So you need to write those structures, those chunks of language. Students are going to explain how a procedure is done. So they need language to structure, to describe cause and effect, to describe order. So first, what happens is, then next, the final step after that, they need this kind of language to be able to list the order of something. So basically what you're going to write here is these chunks of language, like language to express an opinion. Examples. Language to describe a phenomenon and cause and effect. You're going to list the examples. The last one is language through learning. This is the one that brings up more confusion, but it's actually simple. So, question for you guys. You know, when you're teaching a lesson and you prepared a lot of things and then you give the students a text, they're reading and suddenly they go, teacher, what does enzymes mean? Or enzymes, not because it's part of the key vocabulary, but teacher, what does throughout mean? And you didn't teach this vocabulary because maybe you thought they knew, you didn't realize that they wouldn't know. So what do you do in that moment? When they ask you, teacher, what does throughout mean in this text? What do you do when you are in class and this situation appears? Yes?
Sometimes I give synonyms. Sometimes I read the passage or the sentence with them and try to get the meaning, like helping them develop this kind of skills in which you don't have to know all the words, but get the idea of what they are looking for. So basically having that a strategy in which first they look for general ideas and then more specific ideas, and after that we discuss vocabulary to help them develop strategies in dealing with words they don't know.
Thank you very much, Natalia. So bringing synonyms, getting words from context. Okay. André, do you have other ideas of what you could do in a situation like that? No? All right. So some other things that you could do. You could, for example, ask your students to research on their own, go on an online dictionary. So you're gonna go to the online dictionary and look it up. Or maybe you're gonna go into an online synonym dictionary and look for synonyms yourself. You could ask the whole class, okay, guys, this Pedro is asking the meaning of throughout. Does anybody know this word? And then you may have someone who knows it. You could create other sentences that uses the same word, put them on the board, and see if you look at these 3 sentences. Now, can you try to guess the meaning from the context? If they cannot get it from the original text. So you have all of these different strategies, or you can just explain yourself the word straight, like directly. That is also a possibility. All of these different strategies, that's what you're going to write in this part. So you're not going to write any language. You're going to write exactly what you would do. So here you have distinguish language needed to carry out activities, retain language revised both by the teachers and learners, make use of peer explanations, record, predict, and learn new words which arise from activities. So you could list, have students research on online dictionary, have students look for synonyms, make use of peer explanation, try to get meaning from context, and then list all of the strategies that you would use in your class when a new word appears and you were not expecting that. Does it make sense? Okay. Language skills. This is just a checkbox for you to, it's supposed, like, it works more like a reminder. So you see, in my class, do we have a listening activity? Are we practicing listening? Are the students practicing speaking? Are they practicing reading? And are they practicing writing throughout the lessons? And the goal is, yes, you need to check all of these boxes. So when you finish your lesson plan and you come here and you check listening, speaking, and writing. Reading, is there a reading activity? Oh, oops, I forgot to include a reading activity. So you make sure to include one, okay? Because our lessons, they last for 3 hours. In 3 hours, they should have at least one activity practicing each one of the language skills. So always make sure to check all of these boxes. If you forgot to include, usually the one that listening, speaking, and reading are more obvious. The one that we may forget usually is writing. So make sure to include a writing activity, even if it's a small writing practice, like they're gonna create sentences about something, or they're going to summarize some information, or they're going to write a short paragraph about something. Make sure to include all language skills practice. And finally, we get to the instructional phases. The instructional phases is the lesson itself, what you're actually gonna do in class. So in the first column, you're going to write the tasks. In the second column, you're going to include the materials that you're going to use, like a video, a PowerPoint presentation, a text, pages of the book. And then in the last text, in the last column, you're going to include the approximate timing. Remember that approximate timing, and this is a lesson plan, so that is not set in stone, because sometimes we plan a warm-up for 5 minutes and it takes 30. It can happen. It has happened to me. This is gonna be very quick. Once I created an activity that was similar to Chinese whispers, and I thought 5-10 minutes and we're done. And the thing lasted for like 40 minutes. So that may happen, or the other way around as well. Oh, they're going to read this text. I think it's hard. Then they're gonna need time to understand, and then they're going to get the main information. They look at the text, 5 minutes, like I planned for 40 minutes, 1 hour. They look at the text, 10-15 minutes, they're done with the task. So I'm like, oops, I thought this was going to take like 1/3 of the lesson, and they did it so fast. So then you have to remanage the other activities. It can happen, it's not a problem. Just, do your best to try to guess how much time it's going to take. And then sometimes we need to control the timing as well. It's not just like, let's see how long it takes. And if you have this posture, students may take 3 hours to do only the first task. So the timing is there to help you manage the timing of the class, but sometimes it can go out of what is planned. So in the instructional phases, you have 4 moments, okay? 4 moments. Sorry, it's the warm up. I'm sending it in the chat. Introductory activities, main activities, and closing activities. So you're going to divide your class into these 4 moments. How long does the warm-up need to be? I get this question a lot. Is it supposed to be 5 minutes? Half an hour? The class is 3 hours long, so a warm-up is 15 minutes. There's no rule. Okay, there is no rule. Maybe you just want a quick warm-up so you can go to the introductory activity, which is the most interesting. So you can have a 5 minutes warm-up. I would say between 5 and 30, 40 minutes. Closing activities, how long does it have to be? It depends on the activity that you choose. If the closing activity is creating a board, like you had the whole class learning some topic, and then at the end, they're going to create a poster and present this poster. The closing activity is going to take 1 hour, for example. Or the closing activity could be writing a reflective paragraph about connecting the GIA key values with what they learned in class. And that's going to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Depends on which activity you choose. Then, because our class is 3 hours long, usually, you may have, let's say, classes inside, little lessons, different topics inside one whole lesson. So maybe you want to have a introduction to the second topic or a warm-up to the third topic, and that's okay. So you don't need to list as warm-up. You put the whole instructional phases in the order that it's going to happen. But it's okay if in the middle of the lesson you have another introduction activity because you're changing the topic. So you're connecting one to the other. And then we have culture. Culture is linking the GIA key values with the lesson. So you're going to write, the students will be asked to connect the GIA key values with the topic of the lesson by discussing XYZ, by writing a paragraph, a reflective paragraph, based on the quote. So you're going to write here, what is the activity that you're going to use for students to make this connection? And then comparing American and Brazilian culture could be, students will analyze and compare data about Brazilian and American eating habits. How is this connection going to appear in your lesson? And you have to include it both every class, okay? GIA key values and intercultural aspects, every class. Does it have to be like a moment? Guys, now it's intercultural aspects. Now we're going to connect it to Brazilian culture. No, please don't do it like that. You just bring it up. Let's take a look at this graph. This graph is talking about the US and that other graph is talking about Brazil. Let's compare the information. Or you're talking about some habits and then you go, how is it here in Brazil? How is it for you in your family? How do you think it is in the US? Have you ever seen it in movies or in series? Is it the same? Is it different? You just bring it up. With the JAQ values, it's the same thing. Of course, you need to say the words GIA values, dignity, honor, integrity, and respect. But you don't need to go like, all right, GIA values moment, people. No, you're talking about the subject, and you could bring it up like, all right, now if we think about one of the GIA values, what are the GIA values again, people? I always ask them to tell me 4 of them. Okay, so if we think about dignity, how can we relate this that we're talking about? How can we relate the idea of you taking care of your mental health with dignity? How does dignity play a role in here? Is it related or not? So you brought the subject up. You could also have a moment like, okay, now I want you to talk in groups and discuss how you can relate one of the GIA values you can choose with this specific thing that we're talking about. So you bring this up. They need to be familiarized with all of the 4 key values a lot throughout the course. They need to know them by heart. It needs to be easy for them. So bring it up every class, but try to make it as smooth and natural as possible. Last, we have the assessment methods. So most classes you're going to have formative assessment, sometimes summative assessment, and you're going to write what you have. Assessment. Well, in today's lesson, I'm going to assess students' performance through group discussions, written paragraph, video comprehension that they're going to demonstrate through an fill in the blanks exercise, or an oral presentation that they're going to prepare. You're just going to write the type of assessment. And if you have any references or additional resources that you use to prepare the class, you're going to include this here. Okay? So the aim of this part of the lesson, this part of the session today, was to know how to prepare and identify the content aim and the linguistic aim of a lesson. Know how to connect a lesson with the GIA key values and understand how to move from lots to HOTS in a lesson. Questions? And let me know, how do you feel about the lesson plan now?
I feel a little, oh my God, it's going to be too much. But I think that I believe that when we start planning a sequence of lessons, then it's going to run smoothly. Because it will all describe a process, right? And each step of the process. So I don't think, I think just the first one is going to be hard. And then the others will get, as we get to know the material, then it's going to run smoothly. That's what I mean.
Who else?
I think that it helps us not to forget about steps. You know, because sometimes while we are teaching, we may forget intercultural connections or something like that, and it helps us to keep on track on everything we need to approach and work with.
Because it's a complex lesson. There are many things that you need to make sure to include. So you have the lesson plan, you know where to put everything.
I have one doubt, actually, Isabel. Do we need both formative assessment and summative assessment, or can we do only one of them?
No, usually most classes you're gonna have only formative. Unless some teachers like to do quizzes every lesson and grade them, so that would be summative. But most typically, almost every class you're gonna have formative, and only
Yeah.
some classes you're gonna have summative.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I agree with Natalia Ferracini. I think it's a little bit overwhelming,
Mhm.
all the information, even though I had learned it through the training. But I do think that by doing it and practicing it, and after the example that you said you were gonna provide, then I think that it's gonna become way more clear, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, so you're getting familiarized. If I just give you all this information and yeah, now you go and you prepare your lesson, you'll be like, oops, what? But you will see how the demo lesson fits into the lesson planning, and I promise you it's much simpler than it looks once we understand everything and how it works. So we're gonna go to the demo lesson. Just disclaimers. First, this could be a 3 hours lesson, and I can explain to you how afterwards or maybe in the next session. But I adapted it to 1 hour, and we actually have a little less than 1 hour, so we're going to go faster through some parts. It's more for you to have a big picture of this lesson. Second, this was adapted to an online context. So if it was face-to-face, I would do it differently. The interactions and some choices would be different. Well, I guess these are the disclaimers. Okay, so let's go. The aims for today are to introduce the idea of a plant-based diet and to raise awareness about the human body's digestive system and its proximity to herbivore animals. So actually, my first question for you guys is, have you ever heard of this idea of plant-based diet?
Oh, I have. My mom is vegan.
Vegan?
Yes.
Cool, that's cool. But is plant-based is the same thing as vegan?
I think it is, teacher. I don't know.
How about Andrea and Natalia? Do you think it's the same thing? Plant-based and vegan?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It sounds like it, right?
Sounds like it's the same. We can talk about it later on in the class. But okay, you understand. Plant-based based on plants. So people who eat basically plant foods. Let's take a look at this quote. Can I have a volunteer? Well, Natalia Foracini, you already have your mic on. Could you read this quote, please?
Let G food be chi medicine and chi medicine be chi food.
All
Teacher, what
right.
chi?
Has anyone ever seen this word before?
Is it dai or something?
Yes.
It's an old language, isn't it?
Very good. Dai. So the pronunciation is dai, like they, dai. It's old language, Natalia Merlin, but what does it mean?
Maybe it is
Your, exactly. So if I say, let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food. If I change that for your, let your food be your medicine, and your medicine be your food. When I was teaching this lesson, the students were seniors, so they had already seen this in British literature.
Ah,
So you can use that as previous knowledge. Remember, we saw that in British literature. What does it mean?
Shakespeare,
Yeah. What were the other pronouns? So you can, have a quick review. But yeah, many cases they will not have seen this before. All right. So what does this quote mean? Did you understand what it's saying? Let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food.
it gives the importance of what we eat for
Mhm,
our health.
mhm.
You know, if we eat junk food, we might get sick or something, or feel sick or something like that. It gives emphasis on how important the food is and to keep us healthy.
Mhm. And do you agree with this? That food can be your medicine and medicine can be your food? Or
Um,
medicine should be your food?
Personally, it depends, I would say.
Mhm,
But I do agree on the importance of it. Not that I practice it or, you know,
mhm. What about you, Andrea? Do you agree?
Sorry, I was a little distracted. Someone sent me a text and I was reading it. Didn't really hear the question.
The question is if you agree with this statement.
I think, yeah, it can be a good. I think it's a little too specific, I guess, but I think food can be a form of medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa, but I don't think it's necessarily the only form, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Natalia Foratini, do you agree?
as a student or as myself?
You can answer however. I love your character.
Hi, teacher. My mother says yes, but I don't like the what she eats.
You don't like the type of food she eats?
No, she eats broccoli. I hate broccoli.
But do you think it works like medicine or not?
She says yes, but
She
I eat
says,
McDonald's and I'm not sick, so I don't think I agree with that.
interesting. That's true. You can eat McDonald's and not be sick, right?
Yes.
The question is, what if you ate McDonald's every day for the rest of your life? Do you think you could
Ah,
get sick later on?
yes, you can. There is the movie in the Netflix that the guy only ate McDonald's and he got very sick.
Right. Super Size Me. Is it the name of the movie, right? Super Size Me.
Yes.
Okay. So this quote is by this guy called Hippocrates. Any idea? Have you ever heard of this name or any idea where he's from or when he's from?
He seems old.
Uh-huh. And
Yes.
from where?
Maybe Greece because he has this is in the end of the name. I have a friend that is from Greece and he has that too.
Interesting. So yes, Hippocrates was a Greek doctor, and he's considered to be the father of medicine. And he believed that that food is the first medicine, right? So I would like you guys to paraphrase this quote. So you're going to rewrite the same idea, but using your own words, and you can send it in the chat. How could you paraphrase this quote in your own words, saying the same thing with your own words and send it in the chat, please. The food you eat can be good or bad for you. Mhm.
Do they tend to, because sometimes we see in language classes that they resort to Portuguese when they can't find the words? Do they do that? In your experience, have they done that too?
In speaking, yes,
Yes.
but it depends. There are many situations. So some students are just lazy. So they will be lazy to think and phrase it in English, and then they're just say, I just say that in Portuguese. Da-da-da-da-da. And I just stop and say, okay, now say that in English. Because I know they know in that case. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So now I answer you. Sometimes this is when they're talking directly to me. Sometimes they will bring up a word here and there, just a word that they don't remember. Then I help them remembering the word. But the hardest part is when they talk among each other in English, in Portuguese. So sometimes they're whispering and I'm like, no Portuguese. And they look like, how did you hear that? They don't expect us to be listening to everything. But yes, you need to have a very strict rule about no Portuguese in class, especially when they're working together, because they will tend to do it. And if you step outside for a minute, guys, start the work. I'm gonna run to the bathroom and be right back. When you come back, they're speaking Portuguese. So let's see the quotes here. The food you eat can be good or bad for you. Some food can bring bad consequences for your body. Food can be your medicine or your drug. Very good, everybody. Thank you. So I see that you understood the concept of this quote. Now, I'm gonna ask you guys to bring up examples of healthy foods and unhealthy foods. And for this, we're going to use a tool that's called Jamboard. Have you ever heard of Jamboard? Have you ever used it? No? So unfortunately, it's gonna go out of use because it's from Google. I think it wasn't as successful as they expected, although I love it and I use it all the time. They're going to discontinue the use of Jamboard. But let me show you. Editor. I'm gonna send you the link, but how you use it is you have this board, you come here, sticky note, click, and then you write, let's see, tomatoes. Oops. Cancel. And then you can bring it around. It's like a Post-it. This one, sticky notes. So sharing the link. you can open it and start writing examples of healthy foods and examples of unhealthy foods.
So when I open it, a bunch of different notes already came out. Like a lot of notes.
That's weird.
Yeah, it says whole grain, wheat bread, broccoli, grains, beans.
It's because
Same here.
what did I do? Okay, it
It's
sorry.
already done.
Can you look at the screen that is shared? You need to click here.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, go to the second one. Because that was yesterday's group.
Yeah, it confused me a little bit.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
That's okay. Should we choose a color for?
Whatever
something.
color, it's okay.
Mm.
You can make it colorful. What is trail mix? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
It's like peanuts with like other things. It's like a combination of peanuts.
Nuts.
No, it's like peanuts with like sometimes candy, sometimes raisins. Here, let me try. Yeah, it usually has like M&Ms and stuff. So yeah, sometimes it has
M&Ms?
M&Ms like the candy.
I'm Googling that.
Yeah, so like sometimes it can be healthy. Most of the time it's not healthy, but
Okay.
it can be. There's even such a thing as healthy trail mix recipe.
Mm.
Yeah. Also, I didn't really know where to put peanuts. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask that actually, but
could I
you
just
can.
put it like right in the middle? Like here?
Yeah, sure.
Because I feel like it's yeah.
Why is it called trail mix? Do you know?
Because you're mixing the trail, duh. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about this word trail. Trail.
Isn't trail like a path kind of thing?
Yeah, that's what I was thought.
Yeah, so it
That
makes
I was
sense. So
thinking.
it's like the nuts that you gathered in a path.
Ah,
I feel like that is the explanation I would give, but I don't know, honestly.
okay.
Why are things called the way they are? Sometimes it's
Yeah,
just
no, sometimes it's just to help me remember the meaning of that.
Can anyone move my candy sticky note? I'm on my phone and I can't move it to unhealthy food. Please.
Yeah, the Jamboard doesn't work very well in
On the phone.
on the phone. Although I used it with the students like after the pandemic that I was addicted to Jamboard. I brought it to the face-to-face class and they use their phones. It worked a little harder than on the computer. Well, I think it's good. So I'm gonna share my screen again and we can take a look at the board. So we have tomatoes, seeds, carrot, potatoes, vegetables, rice and beans, chickens, fruits, meats, peanuts, undecided, unhealthy, fast food, French fries, candy, processed foods, trail mix, cold cuts. Does everybody agree with this classification, or is anything that someone wrote that you would like to change? Or that
I think it depends on how it's prepared, right? For example, it's chicken, not fried chicken.
Okay. Have you ever heard of people saying that potatoes are unhealthy?
Potatoes, bananas.
Bananas?
Yes, if you eat more than one banana a day.
Just more than one?
Yeah.
Wow. So what about, yeah, chickens, depending on how it's raised also, may have hormones and other things. I'm gonna put it in the middle. What about meat?
Same as chicken?
Same as chicken? Does everybody agree that it's healthy?
I was thinking about that. I was going to put meat as well, but then I started specifying because we can have hamburgers and they're not necessarily healthy.
Uh-huh.
They can be, but I don't know. Nuggets aren't healthy either. I don't know.
Then you have the trail mix. You just said they could be healthy. Depends on how they're done or how they're made. So I don't want to be moving things around. Just keep it here. What about cold cuts? Are they always unhealthy?
I actually think cold cuts are usually healthier than healthier, no?
They have a lot of sodium, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're highly processed, so the more processed, the worse it is for your health.
Mm-hmm. But then you have those that are more natural, like the ones that are like Spanish, cold cuts, you know, those jamon, not so much processed. They suffer a more artisanal process. So maybe depends as well. Now, if you look at these words and you think about your eating habits, if you look at these words and how they are divided, and you think about your eating habits, do you think you're more towards healthy foods or unhealthy foods?
I eat everything, so I would say both all the time.
Right in the middle.
Right.
How about you, Natalia Foratini?
I am super healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I only eat vegetables, fruits, and cereals.
Are you vegetarian?
I'm vegan.
You're vegan?
Yes.
Nice. Interesting. I wish I were. I've tried.
It's very hard.
Right.
It's
very hard.
Yeah, when I'm at home, I eat mostly vegan, but I eat fish every now and then, maybe once or twice a month.
This was the hardest for me to give up.
Fish?
Fish and cheese.
Cheese, yes. Now I'm eating a lot of eggs, actually, but all right, very nice. So thank you for participating. Now you're going to do a very short group work I'm gonna put you guys into the breakout room just because I want you to be discussing without my presence there. I'm gonna say 5 minutes, it's enough. You're going to analyze a table, compare the information that is in the table, and draw some conclusions. So this is the table. I'm gonna share with you the link. You're going to take a look, understand what it's about. So look at the categories here. Look at the categories here on the left side and on top, and then read through this information. You don't have to read in detail everything because there isn't time, but just skim and try to understand what is this table telling? What is it concluding? Okay, so 1 second, because I forgot to have the link with me. Let me just get the link of the table. So this is the link. You can open the table, and I'm gonna open the breakout room, and then you can share the screen and analyze it together. 5 minutes. Okay. So what did you conclude from that table? What conclusions could you guys reach?
That herbivores and humans have much more in common with their physiology than carnivores and omnivores.
Mm-hmm. Natalia Meridian, wanna say something?
I was trying to, I was a little surprised actually with the digestion time
Mm-hmm.
of carnivore. Actually, it looks like it's faster than the
Mhm.
others. I thought it was the opposite.
Because we have that idea that they eat a lot at once and they don't eat for a couple of days.
Probably.
All right. So you got to the conclusion that humans are closer in anatomy to herbivores, but aren't we omnivores?
Yes.
But omnivores here have a different type of system, right? So what is it? What is happening? First, let's just see what animals are considered carnivore. What are the animals? Let's think about mammals. Okay, let's stay in the category of mammals. What animals are carnivores?
Lions or
Mm-hmm. What else? Just lions?
are sharks?
Sharks?
I don't know.
Yes,
I
definitely.
think so, yeah.
How about herbivores and frugivores? If you think about mammals.
For herbivores,
Yeah.
cow, horse, sheep.
Mm-hmm. What about omnivores?
Mm.
What are these animals that are omnivore?
Well, it depends, but there are some dogs.
Definitely dogs, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So carnivores would be, we can think about the felines. Lions, cats, tigers, cheetahs, pumas, etc. Omnivores, we can think about dogs, wolves, fox, bears, and then herbivore, frugivores. We have the cow, the horse. Their system is a little different from this. There's another word for how they're called actually, but we could also think about some rodents and apes, the monkeys that are closer to us as well. All right, so in a typical class, I would spend a lot of time now going through all the information, asking students what they found interesting, something they didn't understand, the vocabulary that they needed to search. Actually, they wouldn't have just 5 minutes to look at this, they would have more. And I would ask them to research the vocabulary that they didn't know, like shearing, enzymes, molars. So then we would analyze like part by part, or alkaline. We would analyze together part by part. But we are gonna move on. So question, do you guys have cats? Actually, does anyone here have a cat? Not that, yes?
I do.
Have you ever seen your cats eating plants?
Mm-hmm. Grass, yes.
My cats eat lettuce.
Because he likes it?
Yeah, they love it.
So I just told you that felines are carnivores. So the question is, at what percentage does a grass eating, or let's say a lettuce eating cat becomes omnivore or herbivore? I said felines are carnivores, but now you're telling me that your cats eat plants. So are they omnivore because of that?
It's not every day or in.
They don't depend on that. I mean, they eat that, but it's not their main source of food. Is this what the classification is about? Like the main source of food?
I love it that you say, is that what the classification is about? Because the thing is exactly that. The classifications are man-made. So it's not that animals are brought into nature and they are classified into this or that. We created this to organize things, and we separated the animals in that based on similarities and differences.
Okay,
But
it is related to your first quote.
how?
The cats eat grass when they are feeling sick or something like that. By food being medicine, or because they do eat grass when they have
they want to throw up.
yeah.
Yes, they do. But also, Natalia Foratini said that her cat eats lettuce because it loves it, not to throw up.
Yes. And they eat
So,
other foods too. So
Yeah, mine too.
So I guess it is related to the first quote. But I'm thinking the classifications may be made in terms of not necessarily the main source, but the ideal source of food. Ideal. Felines are ideally carnivore. Then the omnivores, they eat a more balanced, like they eat more of plant, they mainly meat, but they can eat more plants than the carnivores. And then herbivores ideally eat only plants, but they don't eat only plants. Even the rodents that I gave you the example, or the apes, they eat bugs, sometimes small birds, eggs that are not plants. They're not an animal, but they're not plants, they're animal based. But ideally, their ideal diet is based on plants. And the same thing can work for us. So we can eat like an omnivore. The question is that ideal for us, for humans, or not? According to this table, ideally, we are herbivores, frugivores. But again, herbivore, frugivore doesn't mean exclusively eating plants. You can eat small amounts of other things, of animal products, and still thrive. But maybe we're behaving like an omnivore, and then that stops being ideal for us. So next, I would go in the class with the students, like taking a look at the examples: carnivore, omnivore, frugivore, and human. I like to talk about the canines because a lot of people say that we are omnivore because we have canines like carnivores, but they don't have the same function. The lion's canine is like this big. Bear's canine, even the gorilla is frugivore and they have a canine. And it's not only for eating meat, because the gorilla is not going to tear an animal apart. So the canine can have other functions, and we don't have a canine. Our tooth is only called canine, but it's not actually a canine. It's a flat tooth, you know. Then we can talk about the harshness, how do you call that? Aspereza of the roughness of the tongue, the structure of the dental arch as well. Carnivores, omnivores have blades in the molars, and we have flat molars. The movement of the mouth as well, ours goes side to side to chew on sources of carbohydrates, actually. And carnivores and omnivores, they tear flesh apart, and then they can eat the thing without chewing that much. And their stomach will do the digestion for them, which we don't have. Imagine eating a piece of meat without chewing it properly. You're probably going to, where is it? It's not here. You're probably going to choke. That's what I was looking for. So then we discuss all of these details from the table about the tongue receptors, that we have receptors to taste sugar, which is carbohydrates. Carnivores and omnivores have tongue receptors to taste protein and fat. We don't taste that. If you eat raw meat, it tastes like nothing to you. If it tastes like something like carpaccio, you're tasting the lemon, the alcaparra, the salt. You're tasting the spices, not the actual meat. The enzymes, we have enzymes for carbohydrate digestion in our mouth. So when you eat a cookie, it starts melting in your mouth because you have the proper enzymes to start the digestion in the mouth for carbohydrates. And carnivores and omnivores have enzymes to digest protein. The acidity of the stomach, the size and length of the small intestine that are different, digestion time. And so when I said we are omnivores, we behave like omnivores. We are behavioral omnivores, biologically herbivores. So what are some signs about it? How being behavioral omnivores can be harmful for us? The first one is choking, that I was saying. If you eat a piece of meat without chewing it properly, you're very likely to choke. And actually, the main source of choking in humans is meat. The main source from choking cases. About ideal cholesterol levels. We usually in our modern society, we don't have ideal cholesterol levels. We have problems with atherosclerosis, which is this accumulation of fat coming from cholesterol in our veins. So all of this part in the actual class, I would take a lot more of asking from the students to say things. And here, for example, can you compare the three situations of the three veins, the three arteries, and what is happening here? So accumulation of fat, that's called atherosclerosis. And this comes from our diet, from our eating habits nowadays. Cholesterol levels of the SAD diet, the standard American diet, vegetarian diet, and vegan diet. So we can see that the cholesterol levels drop when you go towards a more plant-based diet. And diet has been our leading cause of death. So we have this table. This is from Brazil. Absolute number of deaths, percentages, and crew death rates per 100,000 population for the 10 leading causes of death, total and by sex in Brazil, 2010. So here is a cultural link. I'm bringing information about Brazil now. So from the 10 leading causes of death, we have ischemic heart disease that is related to heart attack, cerebrovascular diseases related to having strokes, other heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. So from the 10 leading causes of death, half of them are related to diet. Half of them are related to how we eat, what we eat. So when we are behavioral omnivores, do we die immediately or do we get sick immediately? Not immediately. We don't die. I can eat meat and it's okay. Like Natalia had said, I can eat McDonald's. Teacher, I eat McDonald's and I'm here and I'm fine. Right. But what if you eat that every day, every meal for your entire life? So the same thing goes with behaving like an omnivore. You can behave like an omnivore and be healthy until you're 60. But then you get problems that you wouldn't get necessarily if you ate like a herbivore, like your ideal diet. All right, so to finish, I showed this video is actually a 1-minute clip. He talks about something that happened in Norway during the Second World War when the Nazis confiscated all the cattle, and then the levels of cholesterol of the population or of diseases dropped dramatically. So he says, it's the same guy, he says, you can choose to behave like an omnivore, but the human body does best as a herbivore. Which talks about informed decisions. So I like to talk to the student about informed decision. It's okay to choose to eat and behave however you want. I just want you guys to have the information. So, and also, don't trust everything that I tell you. You can do your own research. I'm bringing one point of view, right? I'm bringing one point of view that is different from the widespread point of view. But you can choose to do your own research as well. Then there is another video. This is a TED Talk that's called Weekday Veg. Weekday Veg. Where it's like 4 minutes, where this guy talks about not having a binary solution. You don't have to be vegan or carnivore. You don't have to be vegetarian or carnivore. You can choose to reduce what you eat. So you can choose to, he chose to eat vegetarian from Monday through Friday, and on the weekends he can eat however he likes. And then you're already improving your health a lot. So the last activity, group work. Create one strong statement for one of the GIA key values, relating it to the idea of adopting a diet that is more plant-based. And here I say more plant-based, not exclusively plant-based. And that's, in the beginning, you're saying about vegan and plant-based. So vegan is actually a lifestyle. It involves other things like the cosmetics that you use, the clothes that you use. You don't wear leather, for example. You don't consume anything that comes from animals. But eating a plant-based diet, it doesn't have to be an exclusively plant diet. It's plant-based. The majority of it comes from plants. But maybe you can include one or another thing that doesn't necessarily come from plants. And then at the end, reviewing the aims. To introduce the idea of a plant-based diet, raise awareness about the human body's digestive system and its proximity to herbivore animals. Okay, so because I was in a hurry, I was like reading a lot and talking a lot, but the idea is that you bring the students into the discussions and ask them, and what did you conclude and why is that? What's your opinion? And all of that. Like I said, this class could very well last 3 hours. It depends on how much time you spend in each part of it. And in our next session, we're going to see the lesson plan. If you're curious, you can go to the planning toolkit and take a look at the lesson plan for the demo lesson. The next class, we're going to discuss that. Okay?
All right.
So if you can, over the weekend, take a look at the book. Get a little familiarized with the material, because in the next class, you will start prepare your own lesson for the portfolio.
All right.
Guys, any questions? No? All right.
No.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I went
you.
over 2 minutes,
That's
but enjoy your weekend and I'll see you next
too.
week.
All
You
right.
too.
Good weekend. See
you.
you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.